Big visit weekend in Columbus, and we got a lot to talk about. And just a few moments ago, major prediction in favor of a recruit that had been trending to Georgia, but now the Buckeyes look like they're in a good spot. Also, number one wide receiver Dakorien was on campus this weekend. Like I said, we got a lot to cover. But first, hit subscribe to the best recruiting channel on YouTube, On Three Recruits. All right, I appreciate it. Let's bring on Matt Parker from our Letterman Row site. Busy weekend over on the site. Dakorien, Riley Pettijohn, Vernell Brown, all on campus. But first, moments ago, Steve Wiltfong dropped a pick in for the Buckeyes. 4-star running back Bo Jackson, the number 4 ranked athlete in America, top 100, number 73 overall. We had been talking about him 2 weeks ago because he went to that UGA scavenger hunt, and it sounded really good for the Dogs. Did Ohio State take back the momentum from UGA?
Well, you had mentioned this in your preview, Josh, and all roads lead home, and Ohio State gets Bo Jackson back on campus for the first time since about mid-March, I do believe. Yeah. And this visit was so critical for Ohio State because it seems like with the majority of its in-state guys that it's been really targeting in the last, couple of years, honestly. It always seems like right before official visit season starts that there's some other school that's just going to swoop in, take a top Ohio prospect out of state, and then these guys visit Ohio State and they are reminded exactly why the best players in Ohio stay in Ohio. This weekend was another reminder of that for Bo Jackson, the 4-star running back out of Cleveland, Ohio, Villa Angela, St. Joseph High School. Spent a lot of time with head coach Ryan Day, who you and I have talked about this multiple times, is so pivotal in this recruitment because once Tony Alford, the former running backs coach, left for Michigan, and Ohio State had no running back coach for about 4 weeks or so, there was just that gap. But recruiting doesn't stop for anybody, especially for Ohio State. And so Ryan Day took over that recruitment as well as Jordan Davison, the 4-star running back out of Mater Dei in California. And just having the head coach be for 4 weeks the lead recruiter for anybody is going to be a very, very big deal. Then they bring in Carlos Lachlan, who Bo Jackson had a relationship with when Lachlan was at Oregon. And it was just kind of the perfect marriage. And then Jackson gets on campus this weekend. And once again, is just reminded of exactly why the best in Ohio stay in Ohio. So to answer your question, yeah, I think Ohio State has absolutely taken the momentum and any kind of, gain that Georgia had. I remember seeing some of the fellas at Dogs HQ posting stuff, maybe thinking that Bo Jackson was going to commit to Georgia when he visited for the scavenger hunt. And here we are, uncommitted, just visited to Ohio State, and we had a Fong bomb on the Buckeyes. So things are looking up here in Columbus for Bo Jackson.
Yeah, and we'll have the Wiltfong whip around tomorrow. Going to ask Steve about that prediction for Ohio State. But Ohio State fans were not very happy when it looked like Bo Jackson was trending out of state. But, just give Carlos Lachlan a little bit of time, and he'll do his work. Now, let's talk about another prospect that maybe Ohio State has some work to do. Number 1 wide receiver, Dakorien. He was just in Nashville with us for the On 3 Elite Series, and it sounded really good for the Horns, but we know visits are pivotal, and this weekend he was in Columbus. What are you hearing coming out of this one?
Well, talking to some folks in the Woody Hayes Athletic Center on Sunday about this recruitment, it's the number 1 wide receiver in the country, and the best recruiter of that position coaches at Ohio State. Buckeyes have a lot of confidence with where it stands when it comes to the recruitment of Dakorien. You mentioned that he was in Nashville for the On 3 Elite Series, and he was joined by Devin Sanchez, the 5-star plus cornerback who's committed to Ohio State. Sanchez followed Moore from Nashville to Columbus and actually spent a couple of days in Columbus this weekend after being at the Elite Series, and he has just been an instrumental peer recruiter as it relates to that recruitment. I still think Ohio State is going to have just maybe a little bit of work to do to close out this recruitment, but I definitely think and know that Ohio State needs to be talked about and taken seriously in this recruitment. And it feels kind of silly to say Ohio State isn't being taken seriously in a recruitment for, the country's best wide receiver prospect. But there is a lot of chatter about Texas. There's a lot of chatter about Oregon. Seemed like he kind of surprised everybody by saying that he was taking the official visit to LSU this upcoming weekend. But my advice to you and to anyone else that wants it, don't count out Brian Hartline. That's all I've got there.
I'm not counting out Heartline. I agree with you. We'll see what happens here. Dakorien Moore set to take a couple more official visits, and then he's going to wrap this thing up before the end of summer. Another borderline five-star prospect, Riley Pettijohn, one of the best linebackers in America. Is he another Texas lean that Ohio State has to work on?
I would say he is a Texas lean at this current juncture. There's, I think, about 3 or 4 RPMs right now on Pettijohn to ultimately stay in state and sign with the Longhorns, commit to the Longhorns as well. But just talking with a couple of people at Ohio State, there's a quiet confidence about the Buckeyes in this
Mm-hmm.
recruitment. And Letterman Rowe is going to have some more about that official visit coming out on Monday, so be sure to give that a look and just have the heads up there. But the buzz coming out of Columbus, at least from the Ohio State side, is that visit went as well as it could have. Which, I mean, if that was the case, he'd probably be committed to Ohio State right now. But the point remains is that his family, their eyes were opened up to Ohio State and everything that the program has to offer on and off the field. Pettijohn and his family, they visited Ohio State March 30th for the Buckeye Student Appreciation Day, which is very big on a very big spring get together for recruits and Ohio State spring ball and things like that. So Ohio State got the first crack at official visits for Pettijohn. I believe he heads to USC next week, and then he goes to Texas and Texas A&M, another summertime July decision here. But the Buckeyes have set the pace as far as official visits go, and now it's just kind of, all right, wait and see.
All right. Now, another important prospect on campus was wide receiver Vernell Brown, and it feels like it's Ohio State versus the state of Florida for this one. We're used to these Ohio State-Miami battles, but they also got to deal with UF and FSU for Vernell Brown, and maybe it's Ohio State versus FSU for Vernell Brown. I'm not exactly sure. He's going to take some visits in-state after this one, but what are you hearing about Vernell Brown and Ohio State after this?
Well, you mentioned it, Josh. It's Ohio State versus someone else, and that someone else always changes, but the constant is Ohio State in this
Good
recruitment.
point.
I placed a prediction in the On3 recruiting prediction machine back in April, I want to say it was, on Vernell Brown to go to Ohio State. And coming out of this weekend, I'm still going to stand by that prediction. I know a lot of people are starting to give credence to Florida State, to Florida, where he has a legacy, a 2-time legacy, as a matter of fact. Both his grandfather and his father played for the Gators. But there's just a pull about Ohio State for Vernell Brown to kind of do his own thing. You can't discount the fact that he is a South Florida Express member, and Ohio State just seemingly gets whoever they want from South Florida Express at this point. And this official visit was very big in terms of showing the rest of his family that Ohio State can be a place where he can be comfortable, where he can grow as a student, as an athlete, as just as a human being in general, on and off the field. And as long as the family is comfortable, I still stand by my prediction that Ohio State is ultimately, in the end, going to get Vernell Brown. But like everything, like any other recruitment, it's going to have to withstand a couple of official visits here, since this is just the first weekend.
Yeah, definitely. I like you standing on business there with Vernell Brown, but we will see because he's got some big official visits coming up. But he'll be ready to make a decision in July or August. So big recruitment there with Vernell Brown the third. Now, we only scratched the surface. You guys can go to Letterman Row. There's a whole lot more from this weekend on the site. Matt Parker, appreciate you taking some time out and dropping by the Inside Scoop today.
Thanks for having me, Josh. Appreciate it.